I was with them for betraying our family and letting all of us go. Little did I know at that time how much he would use that against me in the future. 3 years after I met him, we started to date. And it was perfect. It was everything that I could have ever imagined in a relationship. He made me laugh. He was just perfect. I loved him immediately. 3 months into our relationship was the first time he ever laid his hands on me. Too much wine, he said, at a wine and cheese party around Christmas. And one minor shove threw me into a chair which broke. I was 22 at that point. When I was 7 months pregnant with our oldest daughter, Lila, he decided to shove me into a wall and punch me in the back of my head many times. The fear really started to set in at that point, but he was sorry. I am so sorry. It'll never happen again. Please forgive me. And I did, because I loved him. I loved him enough to try and forgive him. And it was all back to chocolates, gifts, honeymoon stage, back to the beginning of where it all started, where I remembered why I fell in love with him. But that all changed very, very quickly. Little did I know that it was only going to get progressively worse. The downgrading, the name-calling, how stupid I was, how dumb I was, how ungrateful I was, and useless I was, that hurt me more than any of his actions towards me, because that sticks with you longer than any physical thing that can happen to you. And it hurt more than anything. The threats started to happen. If I ever left him, he would make sure that my girls wound up in the system. I would never see them again, even if he had to blackmail me. That was my number one concern, was losing my children. He scared me back into staying, even when I knew deep down I shouldn't. I knew. And he had his way in any way he could with me. And before I knew it, I was a slave in my own home while working a full-time job, raising 2 children under the age of 5, paying all the bills, doing all the cooking, cleaning, anything that you can imagine that, I guess, back in the day was what women did. You know, women just did that. While working a full-time job, while he stayed home with our children and didn't lift a finger to help me. But the threats made me stay. I was terrified. I didn't want to leave. December 21st, 2017 would be the undoing of our relationship. He decided that we were going to argue all day. He wanted to fight with me all day long. And then he decided when I got home, he was going to go out with his cousins, go out drinking, do what he did. And so I went to bed with my daughters, but I knew this was going to be it. He came home and dragged me out of my bed by my foot and dragged me through the kitchen where it started. And it was shoves, open hand slaps, degrading me once again, telling me how dumb and useless and stupid I was, and that I was a nobody. I was nothing without him. I would not last one day without him. And it was heart-wrenching. I was terrified. I was scared. His breath smelled so bad of whiskey that night, I could barely stand to even be close to him. But he was right here, right in my face, yelling at me and screaming at me. And I was so afraid that he would do anything, even headbutt me and break my nose, black both my eyes, anything. I was terrified. He woke up our eldest, Lila. She was 4 at the time, because of all the screaming and yelling he was doing in front of her. And so I tried several times to get her to go back to bed. Come on, honey, let's go back to bed. And she just looked at me and she said, Mommy, Daddy mad? And I said, yes, baby, Daddy's mad. And she was like, Mommy, Daddy scared me. And I knew that was going to be it. I went back into the kitchen, and at this time, he had had enough. He grabbed me by my hair, threw me against the wall, and screamed at me to get out of his house. I knew I couldn't leave my children alone with him. I knew that. However, I stepped outside just for a few moments, hoping that he would calm down. Not even 2 minutes later, he came outside, grabbed me by my hair again, and said, "I thought I told you to leave." And I said, "I'm not going anywhere." And he was like, "Well, then I hope you're ready for this, because I'm going to punch you." And my whole world went black. For a few seconds at least. When I regained consciousness, he was standing over me with his fist balled up. And my face was bleeding. That was one hit, one punch. And he hit me as hard as he could. Finally, at that point, I had had it. I was like, "I'm done. I'm not doing this with you anymore. I'm fed up," because I knew my girls were going to grow up to become women. And I was not about to have them grow up with this. And unfortunately, the moment his hand came into contact with my face, that's what woke me up from his spell. It took, unfortunately, to that point. But with the threats and the constant neglect that he gave me, I was terrified. And I didn't want to leave. Cops were called, he was arrested, and my mother came for me and my girls. My first day at court was so nerve-wracking. I was absolutely terrified. I was crying. I knew he was going to be there. I could not quit shaking. I was so afraid. And then Nikki found me, my advocate from the agency at Bright House. Somebody that I had never met before in my life, who I didn't know and I didn't trust. I'm like, "I don't know who you think you are. You think you know me? You don't know a thing about me." But it didn't matter, because she was there for me, just for me, in any way that I would allow her to be. And very soon, she became more than just my advocate. She became my very good friend, somebody that I could trust, laugh with, and cry with. And that's all I needed. Bright House offers many of these services. One-on-ones, group leadership, and group people that were willing to, group support, that are people who are looking for the same support that I was. Victim assistance services, shelter, which with people in my position, that's what we need. Because we feel alone. We feel ultimately alone. Because we've betrayed that person that we tried to protect. Domestic violence and abuse does not know creed, race, or religion. It does not know the difference between male or female. It does not know any different. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, or anything. My girls and I now have a wonderful life together. We are happy. They are thriving. My 2-year-old was barely speaking when I left him. Can't get her to be quiet now. And my 4-year-old, God bless her, she does remember. She remembers that night. She told him to stop, and he wouldn't. She remembers. Now, will I ever sway their opinion of their father? No. That's not my job. They will know the truth when they get old enough. And let me tell you right now, domestic violence is not something that just happens to people of low income standing, people who live in trailer parks, people in the drug industry. It could be happening to your mother, to your father, to your brother, to your sister, your next door neighbor, or even your best friend. And it's not fair. But we all must come together to stop it. It took me 6 years to leave it, and I don't regret it. Thank you.
I've met Alyssa's 2 children, and they are something else. They're just bright, sharp, wonderful little girls. So she was so brave to leave and go out on her own and raise these 2 little girls on her own. There's some people to thank tonight who make it possible for us to help women like Alyssa. First of all, I want to thank our board of directors, because most people don't even know who our board members are and what they do. Our board members make sure that we can operate, that we stay with our doors open, that we can serve victims in the community. So thanks to our board members. I want to thank our corporate sponsors. These businesses here in town, like Bretts and Young Attorneys, J&J Drainage, PRA Group, Cargill, Salt, Idea Tech, Dillon's, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas, Lowen Company, Home Instead, First Presbyterian Church, Mann, Wyatt and Rice, Commerce Bank, First National Bank, Green Vision Group, Midway Motors, Hyatt Life Sciences, Hutchinson Small Animal Hospital, Queen Bee Marketing, and Prairie Star Health Center. These corporate sponsors donate money to make sure that we can continue to give services in our community. Our beverage sponsors tonight: Bob Peel donated all the wine, Sandhill Brewing donated the beer, and Egbert Liquor donated the liquor from the bar. Sunflower Supper Club donated all the food, and Holly donated all the sweets. And the lights come from DB Extreme, and Kitty with details did all the decorating you see here tonight. It wasn't me. I'm not that clever. So we have a lot of people to thank for being able to do what we do. And I want to talk to you just a minute about the numbers. And you look at these numbers and they don't mean a lot, just bear. But I have some stories behind them to tell you. 1,796 is the number of hours in 1 year that we provided supervised visits between children and their parents. In other words, the courts feel that the children are not safe to see a parent without being supervised. 309 is the number of exchanges that we did between a child from one parent to the other. So it's all about safety. 100%. That's the number of people who visit us, that meet with us, and have come away with a safety plan. We don't have anyone leave who doesn't have a safety plan. And it could be as simple as a 911 phone that we give someone to put in their bathroom so that if they have to call, they can. 1,529. That's the number of hotline calls that we answer in 1 year on our hotline. It could be anything from the hospital calling us about a sexual assault. It could be a law enforcement officer calling us about a domestic violence incident in the community in the middle of the night. It could be a grandma concerned that their teenager is in a dating violence relationship. 62 is the number of people that we sheltered just last year in our shelter house. And of that, 25 were kids, because mamas don't leave home without their children. In fact, we have four children there right now under the age of 5, under the age of 8 at our shelter house. So last November, the budget that I had set aside for food, guess what? It went for diapers. How did I know? 6 is the number of times in the last 3 months that we've been called to Hutch Hospital to help with a sexual assault. And 3 of those were children. And this is just in our community. 6 is the number of high schools that we are now engaged in doing prevention work with. We are working at Pretty Prairie, Fairfield, Haven, Nickerson, Bueller, and Hutchinson High School, and hoping to touch every student at those high schools to talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships, about safe dating, about making good choices, about how to survive in a relationship that may be different than what they've seen, because we've had kids tell us they don't know what a healthy relationship looks like because they've never been exposed to one. So our prevention work is what keeps us going. love it. So thank you all for coming, and I want to introduce you to Keith Neal. Oh wait, I want to say a couple things first. We have a play that we're collaborating with Stage 9, June 6, 7, 8, 9, called How I Learned to Drive. If you get a chance, come out and see it. It's around the themes of sexual assault, but it's not a downer play, it's a fun play. So if you can get out, come see us. Upstairs, we have cigars, and we have a raffle. Dane has bought a really nice box of cigars. We're only selling 30 raffle tickets. They're $25 a piece. And downstairs, Dr. Johnson has donated Botox treatment. So those raffle tickets are only $25. We're only selling 30 of them. They're right here by the food tickets. Talk for just a minute about how you can help.
There's none of the raffle tickets left for the Botox because I bought the 25 of them, so it does work. So, this is the bit where the guy from South Hutchison comes to speak to you, and you think, what on earth is he saying? There's no words going to come up here, but yeah, they flew me in from Ireland just to do this. But this, I came on the board in October, no November. Donna has a great way of persuading you to join the board. We met out at Prairie Dunes Pool. And if she holds you under long enough, you go, yeah, I'll do that. But it has been a wonderful, these are the wrong words to use, but it is a wonderful thing to be able to serve on the Bright House board. That story is amazing. It's a survivor. And I was just thinking, do you know the way at times when you lose your voice? If someone loses their voice in the house, my wife Jennifer will say, oh, please let them lose it for me. Let it be a week or two. But when you lose that voice, you feel powerless. And there's so many men and women and children who feel that they have no voice, that they're powerless, that no one cares. Bright House cares. Bright House makes a difference. And my job is to ask you to give. This is a free event, but nothing's ever free. So to get the guy from church to come, because you can't get out of a church meeting without giving money. And so Dan has the doors locked with orange yards. It's $25 for the Botox. It's a lot more to get out the door, but you'll find there are envelopes here, and just put 2 or 3 checks in. Would be great. I'm really encouraged about the difference that Bright House makes. As a youth pastor, one of the great joys for me was to have Bright House come and to actually share with our young people, walk in their shoes. And it transformed the young people who, in our youth group, didn't even know domestic violence. Well, they tell me they didn't know domestic violence existed in Hutchison. And it sparked 3 or 4 of them to actually go and do something about it. And if anybody has been watching the news or Facebook, they're from Buller School, and they decided they wanted to make a difference to the shelter. I took one of the girls across when we delivered care packages that the youth group had put together, and it just had a profound effect on her. And so we sat in one of their homes as these 5 girls and their mums sat and said, Keith, do you think we could raise $500 to change a room in the shelter? And I went, yeah, I'm sure you could. There's 5 girls, it's $100 each. And I said, tell you what, come along and speak to the church at First Praise some morning. And we'll just do the 3 services and you can share what you want to do. Those girls have raised over $10,500. So I'm trying to do the math about how many people's here tonight and divide that by 5 and multiply that. Yeah, I'm not good at math, but the sky's the limit. We want to see abuse eradicated from our society. We want everyone to feel safe. We want our families to feel safe, our mums, and I know it can happen right across the board to men and to anybody, but mostly to the kids and to the mums. We want them to know that this community cares for them, that you care for them, your support. I can't put into words what it means, but it means the world, because it changes the world. And they know that they're loved, they're cared for, they're supported, that they've got friends. It's wonderful when you have an advocate who is a best friend, because that's what it's about. It's not a job. Bright House is not a job. Being on the board is a complete honour for all of us. But it's only us doing a little bit to make a difference. So thank you for coming. Please, please don't leave without donating, and be as generous as you can, because this is changing lives. This is transforming lives. Really, you should have been doing the play, because it was just so wonderful to see. It makes it